Hey, it's Darryl Syms and welcome back to another video. In this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how you can transform some real basic, simple open chords or any chord type into something a lot more interesting that has a lot more color and flavor than it normally would. Now, this is going to be incredibly easy for you to do, but if you want a head start, it's important that you have two things. Number one, a slightly creative mindset, and number two, that you're familiar with the major scale in just one position of the neck. So let's go ahead and crack on with the lesson. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and give you a bit of insight into how I created that piece of music at the beginning of the video, which is based on a real simple chord progression diatonic to the key of G. These are all open chords. We start off with G, into E minor, C, and then D. And then we do the same again. However, the second time you finish with an A minor. And then we have this middle section, which is just C to D, C to D again, and then I finish with C to G. Now, what we're going to need to know in order to embellish these chords in a wonderful way is your G major scale in two positions. We've got the open position, which is the most important position for this lesson, since all of these chords are just open chords. But it's also handy to know that second position there, which I like to call the E shape, because that's going to help us break out of those open chord shapes just a little bit. So we have our open position G major scale, which sounds like this. Okay, and then we have our E shape, which starts here again and sounds like this. We can also add this note if you'd like, just to complete that whole shape. Now, all of those notes will work alongside the chords that you play. And this is essentially all I did with these chords. I experimented with the different voicings, what sounds good, and then added a funky picking pattern to make it a bit more interesting. And that's really all there is to it. So let me show you exactly what I did in the beginning there so you can really pull apart my thought process. So I start this piece off on the G, of course, but I don't play the full G. I actually only use these notes, and by having these fingers free, that allows me to play some of these other scale tones to get a different voicing. So in specific, I play the top 4 of 5 strings. I'm muting the A, by the way, with the bottom of my second finger, and we have this to begin with. Okay, so I start off by highlighting the G, and then we just have that little melody, which actually really nicely lets us follow on to the next chord, which is your E minor. Okay, so that's the shape I'm going for there. Once again, these are all just scale tones from the open position G major scale shape. And then after that, so we'd have, I play that open G, which gives me time to switch over to the C. But again, I don't just play a regular C. I plant these two fingers and I play this melody. Also with that first finger on the bottom, we're going to go. Okay, so again, these are all just scale tones from that parent G major shape there. And that leads perfectly onto the D, which is the next chord in the sequence. I just actually play a D5 here, those two notes. That's all, and that concludes the first 4 bars. So all together. With that open D, which leads us back into the G shape, same as beforehand, only a slightly different ending this time. So we have, okay, so now I'm moving into the E shape scale position here, exploring with some of these notes. Okay, that would give us a G major add 9 kind of sound there. That's your 9th degree. And once again, hammer on, and then pull off that little finger, which leads us nicely into our E minor. And that leads nicely into the C. Once again, we're not going for this shape, we're going for this shape. And that leads us nicely into your A minor. So nothing too special or noteworthy there. I'm just pulling off with that first finger. And that leads us nicely into our C, where I actually do use a regular position for this because I'm going to use the same shape for the D, which comes next. And that's a beautiful sounding chord there with that open G in the middle. And then I go back to the C, except this time I take off the first finger. And then I finish off with this shape. Again, that's your D sus4, except this time you're adding on this little finger on the bottom there, which is just your 5th degree. But again, it comes from that original parent major scale shape. Then after this, we have 2 more chords, which are your C into your G. Now I play the C a little bit different than you might expect. I start with this C shape, but I bring that 3rd finger up to the G here, which is actually the 5th degree of C. And we have, which leads beautifully into the resolution, which is of course your G. So let me play that second half for you slowly. It sounds like this. Into your final C, resolution, there you have it. So with that piece of music, hopefully you can see how I used those 2 original parent major scale shapes to help me find some of these embellishments and some of these scale tones to make this whole chord progression sound a lot more interesting than it otherwise would. So I encourage you to give this a try yourself. Maybe you can choose these exact same chords, or even just 2 chords to begin with, and find as many different voicings as you can using some of these scale tones. As always, tabs for the piece of music are available for Patreon supporters, which is linked in the description below. So there you go. Hopefully you can agree that this is quite easy to follow along and visualize, but it's in your hands now to take the little piece of music that I created as inspiration to help you create your own stuff. And that's really the hardest part, but I promise with experience you're going to get better at that. I've given you the options and the palette of notes to explore with, so it's in your hands now to experiment with that and develop your creative ability. So that's all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one.